Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the West Ham Network. This is your live West Ham rumour roundup. You could say loads of stuff going on at West Ham, loads of links of players coming into the club, loads of links of players heading out of the club. We feel like we've only been going one way this summer. We've announced the signing of Edson Alvarez from Ajax earlier on today. It was the worst kept secret in football, as it seems to be transfers are these days. You know, bang goes the surprise element anymore. The surprise element is when we're linked to a player, but when we actually sign them over the dotted line, it's by that point already the story's out there. Anyway, we've got lots of stories to get through. I'm not going to do it myself. I'm going to bring on a good friend of the channel. His name is Dan. Dan, how you doing, mate? You all right?
Not bad, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thank you very much. Happy with Edson Alvarez?
Yeah. Russ has already tried to call me out because obviously early in the window I was like, yeah, no, we should be going for someone other than him. And he's already like, I didn't think you rated him. It's not that I don't rate him. I just felt like there were better options. But that said, I have looked at his numbers, and as an out-and-out defensive midfielder, his numbers were more impressive than Rice when Rice played there.
Yes.
So there you go. We will wait and see if he can kind of do it. The thing I'm worried about is he hasn't had much of a pre-season. We all know what Moyes is like. He'll probably bench him for a month. But yeah, I'm excited about it.
Yeah, there is an element of, is he going to bed him in like he normally does with signings? I mean, we expect more to follow. Of that more to follow, we expect some of them to be first-team players, first 11 players, in theory, on paper. Alvarez, though, he looks like a bit of a pit bull. He looks a bit like a nut job in the nicest possible way.
It's the most important. It was the most important signing we needed to get done. We need an out-and-out defensive midfielder, and that's what we got. Do I think we probably need another one with news of potential exits? Yeah, we probably do need cover for, if there's ever injuries or suspensions or whatever. But for me, that was the most important position that needed sorting. So now the club can go and crack on with all the other bits and bobs.
Right, sorry, mate. I just had to quickly check where the kids are. They're all running around mental in the house as we're doing a live stream. Sorry about that, everyone. I agree with you, mate. He does look like he is like a bit of a unit. He looks very athletic. And I watched the video that he did with Chris Skull and Ginge at the West Ham YouTube channel, and it was very nice to hear his positive words about the club and his mindset as a player, and also watch the video that you recommended, which was the Ajax farewell video. If you are...
I think we have to give a shout out to Pablo as well, because he'd already reached out and said, can't wait to see you at training. And
mate, I said this, I don't know if you remember, I think when Pablo was really embracing London, I remember at the time saying that if there was a one player you want who helps bring international players in the door in terms of when they arrive at the club to make you feel welcome, it would probably be Pablo Fornals. Now, we had that corroborated to us by Jackmate, who was a big YouTuber who came on the channel with myself and Russ and spoke to us about him and said, in actual fact, yes, you are correct. When he came to the club, wanted to understand the history, wanted a tour of East London and all that sort of stuff, and very quickly wanted to speak English. So when I heard him say that about Pablo, I was like, massive, like, that's cool. That's like ticking the box of what we all thought he was. He loves the club, mate. He does, and that's a cool thing. I think that's nice to hear as well. But we are here, mate, to discuss some of the situations that's going on with the current team and the rumours that are West Ham are linked to. So first and foremost, let me get on to the first player we are potentially going to discuss, and that is none other than the Brazilian Magnifico Paqueta. Now, rumours started to come out the other night about Paqueta heading to Manchester City. And apparently we've now since learned that the offer that they were prepared to pay was £60 million. I think Paqueta's head has been turned, and rightly so. We understand that. It's not that we are held to any form of like, why would he leave West Ham? And it's David Moyes' fault, essentially. Well, no, in actual fact, you're talking about not many clubs in the world football that can come knocking at your door that would turn your heads. I think Man City fit into that category of that. So based upon the Paqueta news, Dan, and just to add a little spanner into the works, and you can maybe elaborate your opinion on it. Earlier today, his wife posted an Instagram story. So on his Instagram story, she posted a picture of the kids at the training ground, and alongside that, she wrote a comment, and the comment she wrote was, "We came to Daddy's training today to renew our documentation. They love coming here, and the love word was in capital letters with a heart. And all day now, the kids are going around London wearing their, the little West Ham strips, etc., etc." So on the Paqueta out to Man City, £60 million bid, £85 million release clause next summer, and the Instagram comments, what's your analogy on it?
Look, footballers, it's the nature of the beast is that they can move from club to club during transfer windows at any time. So I think you have to take the comments of his partner potentially with a little bit of a pinch of salt. I think that maybe she just likes living in London. Maybe she doesn't want to leave. But for me, mate, if Man City come calling and the money's right and the player wants to go, I don't think there's much you can do about it. I think that it's just one of those things. 60 million, though, isn't enough. I actually think they're going to have to get closer to this £85 million release clause that obviously is activated next year. And if they can't get close to that, they're going to have to start adding players or something. Obviously, I don't know if we're going to talk about it today, but there's links to there's been links to multiple City players this window, so they could do that. But I don't know, mate. It's going to be an interesting one. I think I was probably more upset when I first found the news out than I am now, because I think the potential to make 20-30 million on the player in the space of a year, I think that would be good business for us. Yes, it is a disaster to lose Rice and Paqueta in the same window. And I think in any other situation, I'd have more trust in the manager to replace the player. But it's a lot of money we would have to maybe tackle some other areas, So you're on mute.
I'm on the same wavelength as you, mate, in terms of the Paqueta situation. When the news broke yesterday, yesterday was just a crazy day in the West Ham world of news. It was just like, by the end of the day, I really couldn't take any more. And then straight away, I posted something on Twitter about a link to something else. It was just relentless yesterday. But, essentially, when you're talking about a player like Paqueta's level, and a club like Manchester City come knocking, I put a post out as well saying that there's not many clubs, and I just used two as an example. The top two right now seem to be Man City and Real Madrid. So no matter who you are in the world of football, if these two clubs came calling, there's a strong possibility you're going to turn the player's head no matter what club you're at, within reason. And if Man City are prepared to do that, then so be it. If they're not, and I also said something else as well, is I don't think they're pretty strict on what they'll pay for a player. Like, they won't go mega over the top just because they're Man City. So if they have gone in with £60 million and we've got an £85 million release clause, and like you said, mate, you've got to take some of the stuff on social media with a pinch of salt. It's just the timing of it. These things just don't make sense sometimes.
Kovacic has just pinged his ACL, and I think that's where the timings come up. Maybe, you have to remember Rob Newman came to us from Manchester City, and Rob Newman has always been very, very hot on Lucas Paqueta, so that he probably had his eye on him when he was working for them. So maybe he's always kind of been there. As an option, as a player that they've been interested in. Pep is a fan of the player. He's openly said that. So, you can see why the links are there, especially if they've just lost a player that they've literally signed this window to an ACL injury. You can see where the links are there. But you've made a good point, though, mate. They won't overpay. They will not overpay for a player. They will only pay what they think he's worth. And if they can't, Rice is a prime example of that. They only had X amount to spend on the player, didn't want to go where we wanted them to, so they pulled out, A lot of people think they were just driving the price up for other clubs, but I just think that, I've got friends that are City fans, and they say it to me all the time, they won't overpay. So if 60 is what they've offered, that's probably what they see his worth is. And I can't see us, I just can't see it happening.
Looks like someone in the chat knows you from secondary school, mate. And is Darren not your brother?
Yeah, Darren's my brother. Yeah.
So obviously, I don't know if you know who Adam is, mate.
I believe I do know who that is.
Yeah.
How are we doing?
Yeah, there you go. With that news on Paqueta, it's interesting because what if we do sell him this summer, then we have more money that goes towards the war chest. Seth put a comment in the group chat the other day, and he talked about, I have a theory. My theory is that Moyes and Steiden are working together now, and there's going to be a bit of to and fro in terms of the players that are coming in. So, for example, Alvarez could be Steiden or Noble, whoever you want to, or either way, it's still a Steiden and Noble signing than it is more of a Moyes signing. And then JWP will be more of a Moyes signing. So there'll be that element of, whatever belief you want to think, etc. But they'll probably have an element of working together on this. We're expecting more players to come in, but if we do sell Paqueta, that adds to the war chest of money that we do have.
See, I've got an issue with this, as you know I have, and there's no sign of a new contract from Moyes. So why are we backing him with his targets so heavily in the window? I have nothing against the players that he wants to sign. If they're the players the manager wants, then in theory, they're the players the manager should get. But if say you always have to look at things. Worst case scenario, say it goes wrong for Moyes and he's no longer in a job in January, and we have to go and get a manager, and we bring someone in who is a bit more progressive and wants to play a different system. There's going to be players like Ward-Prowse and Harry Maguire who might not suit this style of play, and it's a big risk. And they're not small fees. This is big chunk of our transfer budget that's being taken up on these players. And before I'm attacked, I'm not against these signings. They're clearly very good Premier League players, and Harry Maguire in particular, I think, will do a very good job for us in a 3 or in a low block in a 4. I do think he will do a good job, but it's just I don't understand why we're doing this where it's we've got to back Moyes so heavily, and why there seems to be this element of you have one, I get two kind of thing. It's a weird transfer strategy for me.
Yeah. Well, on the basis of the Lucas Paqueta news, other news came out about West Ham and Man City trying to do a deal for another player, and that other player is actually Cole Palmer from Manchester City, the under-21 striker. Quality young lad. Now, what we're understanding is that West Ham are interested in a loan or a permanent deal, and this would be a completely separate situation. However, in football, things can change, so there's nothing to say that this can't be part of any deal that potentially takes place with regards to Lucas Paqueta. But when it comes to this particular player, Dan, with your kind of knowledge on football, etc., what's your thoughts on the potential link to Cole Palmer?
So I actually was saying when Rice was being linked with him that we should try and include him and or Harwood Bellis. Both coming off the back of that very good tournament in the summer. And you know what? Cole Palmer's one that I've had an eye on for a little while. He's been in and around the first team for probably like three or four seasons now. He probably wants more minutes. I think it would make sense. So for me, if he's going to be part of this Paqueta deal, though, it's got to be a loan with an obligation, or at least an option. You can't just have a flat loan, because that's a lot of money you're probably going to have to give up, that you're going to be negotiating out of the deal. If we're sitting here saying that Paqueta's worth 85, they're probably going to offer us 55, 60 plus Cole. I think there has to be an option in there for us to take him, even if they want to throw a buyback in there, because these buybacks are rarely ever activated anyway, because with the spending power that City's got, they can literally buy anyone. But I do think that Cole Palmer would be great for us to play through the middle in that cam position. He's very good off of the right and left wing. I think he just gives us really good options across that sort of front four.
What's really interesting about some of the stuff that's coming out of West Ham, again, it depends on what you believe, is that West Ham might be looking at bringing Bowen more up front in a West Ham team.
I don't know how I feel about this.
No, I know. And again, we don't necessarily know how truthful that is, but people might be asking, where does Cole Palmer fit into the plans? That could be one option. Like you said, mate, he can play on the right wing or anywhere really along that kind of front line. But Pep Guardiola did say today in a press conference, Cole Palmer is with us. Today he is with us. What is going to happen, I don't know. I understand he wants to be more active than the previous season, and rightly so. I mean, that's completely, the right decision if the player wants that, and that's what we have to expect. Players don't want to really sit on the bench. You see that with Carlos Borges, albeit we missed out on the deal. He's gone now to Ajax. He's going to get a run of games, and that's good for his career, essentially. But you like Cole Palmer, and would you like him to see him in the West Ham top?
At the end of the day, the big thing that's missing from our team is energy and pace, and we just lack so much of it, and we still lacking it with the signings we've made. And that's not me getting on top of them, but the signings we're about to make, and they're not They're not that. You know, like if say Paqueta goes, I would love for the club to go all out for Fofana, because we need that engine. We need these ball carriers in this midfield. I think that's the big thing we are missing at the moment. And we need that left-hand side, especially if he's going to go to a free to wing with wing backs. That left-hand side needs sorting, mate. Really, really needs sorting, because we just lack energy in this team at the moment. You know, this money, this Paqueta deal could be sweetened if the club uses that money correctly. You know, because we're going to have, say Paqueta happens, we're going to have like £200 million to spend.
Well,
if you want to believe the rumours.
Yeah, well, that's, you're making a valid point there about, and coming on to this comment here from Simon, who I believe is Russ's other brother. We've had the two brothers on today, chatting away with Russ. So, what I am suggesting is, and I think I said it in the comments yesterday to you, Dan, with the West Ham Network chat group, whatever we call it, West Ham chat, that if we do lose Paqueta, then we have that money, like you said, to make the statement of intent. And a statement of intent signing would be someone like, in my opinion, Eberechi, because I think he is, and Fofana as well, obviously. But when I'm looking at Eberechi, I'm thinking Premier League proven, young. I know he's suffered with some injuries, but not career-threatening injuries. But he is a ball carrier. He's a creative player. He's a player that West Ham previously targeted, David Moyes previously targeted, didn't get, and had to go for Benrahma. Benrahma was the second choice from the two. So, you could tempt Palace with a big offer, and an offer that I don't think they would be able to refuse. You'd be in, you would have the power at that point to be able to go in and make an offer for a player like that. You have the clout.
Because the issue we are going to have is if Paqueta goes, we literally have no ball carriers.
Yeah.
We've got Fornals, who, I still think he's being underutilized on the wings. I really do. I think he needs to be playing more central, and I'd love to see him playing central this year. But if you lose him, you have no ball carriers at the football club anymore, and that is going to be a massive problem going into the new Premier League season. It just isn't going to work. So we've got to be looking at an Eze, a Fofana, a Thuram, for instance, even at Nice. I think Khéphren Thuram would be a fantastic signing. And, they're asking for 50 million euros, which is about £46 million. It would be a steal at that price. And unless people have said to me, some of the players that you're talking about maybe beyond our reach. But unless you ask, unless you try, you will never know.
Yeah, that makes total sense, mate. 100%. Now, put your comments in. Let us know your thoughts on the link to Cole Palmer. There is some more players that I want to get us talking through. So let's get on to the next one, and that is Balogun, or however you pronounce his name, Folarin Balogun, who currently plays at Arsenal. And West Ham have been linked, a serious link, apparently, according to the Independent newspaper, about bringing him in. Now, I'm intrigued to hear Dan's opinion on Balogun. What's your thoughts, mate?
He is a Moyes player. He'll run the channels. He'll hold the ball up. He's got an eye for goal. He's done it. What was it? He did it in France last year. Was it Portugal the year before that? I think he would be a very, very good signing for us. It's just the money. How much is it going to cost? There's rumours that Arsenal wanted, 50, 55 million. It's now 40, apparently. And are we going to have that level of cash when you think about the other areas of the team that need to be fulfilled? I don't know what the club are looking at doing, but me personally still think we need a left back. I'd say we probably need to be looking at a right back. Even if Ward-Prowse is done and dusted and he comes in, I still think we need another centre mid. So are we going to have that level of money to kind of throw at a Balogun? But I think that, if you're looking for a striker that suits the Moyes mould, he is probably the one out there that is available.
Arsenal are certainly, and I think it seems to be that maybe West Ham have set the market value this season for what the value of players are going to be. We can't turn around and go, oh, it's too much to pay for a player when we've literally got £105 million for Declan Rice. And listen, we all know what Declan Rice is capable of doing in a West Ham shirt, but we can't deny the fact that they paid a lot of money for him, and that's good for us. But we've set the tone and we've set the standard of this transfer window. We really, really have. So therefore, we can't get a player, if they value a player originally at 30 million quid, they're going to probably inflate that now by 20 million quid, especially if they can score goals. And the problem you've got is if a player does score goals, they're probably the most sought after player around the world, because there's not many strikers that score a lot of goals.
They should, in theory, be the most expensive players in football, because scoring goals is the hardest thing to do. So we're looking at Harry Kane, who is completely different, but potentially going to buy for 95 million. He's got less than 12 months on his contract, so I think it tells you all you need to know about like proper out and out strikers and how much they cost.
Yeah, absolutely. People are saying I'd pass on Balogun, far too expensive. Arsenal value him at £50 million. What is a Moyes player from Cayman? PGAD says Moyes can't relate to young players. We'll just bench him. Toby Sampson is in the house, and Nketiah is more realistic. Jonathan says if the window closes with no really attacking approach in mind, and it doesn't mean Solanke, I will stop watching West Ham until Moyes goes. I don't think you're going to be the only one, to be honest. Bournemouth pulling off 2 big moves with Aarons and Scott.
And for like under 30 million as well.
Surreal Frame is saying I'd take Parma, good player. Dave is saying surely even Guardiola would struggle in integrating so many new first teamers as well. It's a definitely interesting one. Split opinions as well from the fan base with regards to all of the players. Just a couple of more players to go through, and ones we've kind of mentioned already, and ones we expect deals to go through with, and that is first and foremost JWP. We're understanding that he is completing his medical with West Ham this evening, probably announced tomorrow as a West Ham player. Now, coming on to you, Dan, I know your kind of mindset in terms of the style of football that you want West Ham to play, and I don't necessarily think he fits the system that what you're hoping West Ham can play. But he's coming to the club. We can't deny the fact that he is a set-piece specialist. I don't know if you've seen
We're going back to the West Ham of 2 years ago.
Well, yeah, but they put a reel out of JWP's set pieces, and he is a really unique player in terms of his ability on the ball, on a dead ball.
I will say one thing. We did a video a little while ago, didn't we, with the whole Moyes v Steiden deal, me, you, and Russ. And I do think actually I was a little bit harsh on Ward-Prowse in that video. My issue, he's a Moyes wet dream. Yeah, he just is, because he's going to give Moyes everything that he wants in a player. I think the issue we've got is that we have no ball carriers in our midfield. I still think JWP makes us a slightly better team. He makes us definitely more deadly from set pieces. I hate the fact that everyone just thinks that is all that he's got to his game. He is very good on the ball, positionally really good. Rarely picks up injuries, which is, that is always such a handy thing to have in and around a squad. My issue is he can't carry the ball. He isn't going to break the line. He's not going to be. He's not just going to be that guy. He's just going to sit and dictate from deep. Now, if we're going to play the way we played under Moyes, where we just soak up and soak up and soak up, and we're 25 to 30% possession each game, that doesn't suit a James Ward-Prowse, does it? Especially when you don't really have players that are kind of breaking the line for him to pass from deep. It's a strange signing. And at £30 million at 29 years of age, it's an expensive signing that you're not going to get that much return on, because you're not going to sell him. This is probably his last big move, unless we get relegated, for instance. But like, it's probably his first and only move he's going to get late on in his career. But so you're not going to make that money back. It's a hard one, mate. It's such a hard one to judge.
I'm probably the same. I think I don't know. I think I am happy with JWP, if I'm being honest. I think there's a fine balance. I keep saying it. I'm not worried about sell-on value. I think 30 million quid for 29-year-old who could really add value. If he gets or commits, if he helps West Ham with 10 to 12 goals this season, in theory, that value is paid back.
See, my thing is, Anne, if you're going to spend a healthy amount of money on a player that is in the latter part of their career, yeah, they've got to be able to really offer that club something, different. And this is where I will argue that I actually think the Harry Maguire signing, although he's a year older, is a better signing than JWP, because I just think you get more out of the Harry Maguire signing, personally. But we will see. We will have to wait and see what what Moyes plans on doing. We don't know what system he's going to play. For all we know, he could play like a system that completely suits JWP down to the ground. We're still, you have to understand, as a fan base, we are still so clueless at what's going to happen. We don't know who's going to play on Saturday. We don't know what formation he's going to use. We don't know who's going to be captain. Like, we literally are so in the dark still.
And even with that, whatever happens on Saturday, there's a strong possibility for the game after it's going to change again. So even, Saturday might not be a good judgment on what we're going to do moving forward, because we've left our business to be late. And if we are bringing in the players we're literally linked to, we're talking about, starting 11 players. Really, a lot of them are, not all of them, but a lot of them are. Again, you don't know what's going to happen with the Paqueta situation, etc. But set piece West Ham, set piece FC. We were dangerous in that, and that definitely offered us something. What does excite me is, any free kick from an angle, or any corner coming in, then you put Maguire and Alvarez, and even an attacking Souček on the end of that with Zuma and Aguerd behind you. Like, teams will be frightened of that. They will. They'll be absolutely frightened about it. It might not be the style of play that West Ham fans want, essentially, but it depends on what happens with the Paqueta thing and who we bring in, if we bring in other players.
It depends how the season goes. We've probably only got to suffer it for 12 months. So if the fan base are not a fan of that thing, they've just got to get through the next 12 months, haven't they? So yeah, that's just how it is.
I don't actually know, Dave, if anything like that has been announced, to be honest. So while we're online, we are live.
I feel like the club are really against giving him what he wants.
Yeah.
I can see him being one that goes next year.
Yeah, absolutely, probably. Yeah, 100%. I'm just reading something up now. There's some other stuff coming up here, and it looks like we do know, and we did announce this yesterday, that as part of James Ward-Prowse coming to West Ham, we're looking at seeing Flynn Downs going out in the other direction on a season-long loan deal. Give me your kind of brief thoughts on Flynn Downs, Dan.
I've said it all before, mate. I think he's a good squad player, but he was never going to start for the club. I think a lot of the West Ham fans were just more excited at the fact that he was a West Ham boy, and they probably know too much about him, probably didn't watch too much of the Championship, and that's probably his level. And that's not me being, an arsehole. I do genuinely think that's his level. So him going out on loan to Southampton, with the potential to maybe earn himself a move there, who knows? Then, good on the lad. At the end of the day, he's not going to start many games for us. He was always just going to be a squad player. And if he wants more minutes and more time on the pitch, then it suits him down to the ground, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I'll answer. There's some of these questions coming in. Who's going to take that captain's armband? And I'll answer that in a second. Once we do the last player we're going to talk about. We've also got another question here with the current signing and personal coming in, the clear backing of Moyes. What do you think this means for Stuyden? We'll talk about that in a second. And how many players do you think will realistically sign? So they'll all kind of come into one thing after we do talk about the last player for this moment. And the last player I'm going to talk to you about is this man, Maguire. What we understand is that the agreement's been agreed with Manchester United that both West Ham and Manchester United are going to be paying a fee to Maguire. So signing on, signing off fee, which covers the wages that he'll lose from dropping his wages from 200k to 100k a week at West Ham. We believe potentially his medical could be booked tomorrow. If he is booked tomorrow and he is going to try and feature for the Bournemouth game, all players would need to be signed by the midday deadline. Sorry, not tomorrow, on Friday. The midday deadline on Friday. That is when the players. I don't even know what day today is.
Yes, Thursday.
Yeah, it is tomorrow. So there you go. It is tomorrow. Honestly, mate, I'm away with the fairies. So on that, and if we do bring Maguire in, I for one, Dan, really wasn't enamored by the link and bringing the player in. I did say all along that I wouldn't pay 200k a week. Nor 60 million quid for the player. I would have been open to a loan deal. However, looking at the deal, essentially, if we are paying 100 grand a week and we've signed this player at 30 million quid, a player that many managers all over the world were looking at, Pep Guardiola included, he's featured in the World Cup starting 11, best 11, Euro starting 11, and the Premier League starting 11, like only player to do that. Like, I actually think this could be a bit of shrewd business.
Look, I also we have to understand.
The last thing, Dan, keep that point there. The last thing I'll say is, my opinion more recently was based upon probably social media propaganda. So, propaganda and the negative side of it always looks at the rubbish things that come out of a player. So they throw out the bad traits that the player has, and that's what we saw a lot of if you are sitting on social media. But in actual fact, you are essentially talking about a very good centre back, and his stats read well for themselves. Over to you, Dan.
I think we have to understand that obviously, if you earn a move to Manchester United, you're not a shit player. Okay, you're a good footballer. I think a lot of the problem with Harry Maguire, it comes down to the fact that it was an extortionate amount of money. He's still the record, price paid for a defender. It is just an extortionate amount of money. They stuck the armband on him at the wrong time, and they played him in a system that did not suit him. And as a result, if you continue to we have got a situation like this with Thomas Souček at the football club at the moment, where he keeps getting thrown in the team and thrown under the bus by the boss. You've got to stop. When a player is out of form or they're struggling, you have to help them. I think Harry Maguire is just, it's the evidence is all there that screams that he just did not suit that system and that style of play, and they just kept doing it and doing it and doing it, and then he just became a meme. The poor bloke just got it from every angle, but he does it for England, and he was doing it at clubs beforehand. And like you've just said, you've just run off all of those things that he's managed to achieve in his life. He's what is that? The only player to make those 3 Team of the Years. You're not a crap player if you can do that. I just think that I think he'll do a far better job in our team. The only thing I don't want is I don't want the armband put on him, because I actually think that he could do without it. I think he could do without it.
Well, the funny thing is, when you look at the players that are coming in, and by the way, I just want to say hi to Leon, DJ Leon. Hope you're well, mate. Good to speak to you, mate. Thanks for joining us. When you think about the players that we're linked to, you look at an Alvarez type player. I'm just throwing loads of names at you here. Maguire, captain. James Ward-Prowse, captain. I think about the current West Ham team, and I think to myself, Agerd. I've always been saying this about Agerd. I was at the celebratory dinner. I watched how he worked the room in terms of the players' tables. He was extremely, extremely popular amongst the group. He speaks all the languages. It was like he held the room together. He really was that vocal voice head in the room. So in terms of West Ham, I think he's really up there in terms of potentially being a captain. But we have to wait and see. So going back to that question, the rumours are if Maguire comes to the club that Moyes will want to make him captain. But Dan, who do you want to make West Ham captain? And if you are watching, put your comments in.
I genuinely don't know, mate. I genuinely don't know. But I just, for the good of Harry Maguire and his mental health and him, taking, this is a fresh start for him. I just wouldn't put the armband on him. I would just I would just let him play his football and let him be part of a team again, instead of the one that has to be at the top, telling everyone else what to do and screaming at him. I just think he could do without it. I stand by it. It's not the flashiest signing we could have made, especially as the player's been out of form for a couple of years. But at the money we're getting him for, probably getting him for 4 or 5 seasons. Like if he stays at the club, like I think it's a good seasoned international Premier League defender that we're getting for okay money.
Yeah, absolutely.
But generally, as far as putting the armband on someone, mate, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a tough one, man. It's a really tough one as well. 100%. Sorry, there's loads of stuff. I mean, typical as West Ham. No matter what you do, when you do it, especially during a transfer window, stuff just pops up all the bloody time as a West Ham fan. So I'm just trying to see what else, if anything is coming out, but it's not. So I think, listen, we're expected JWP to sign on the dotted line tomorrow, be announced as a West Ham player tomorrow. Whether you think it's a good signing or not, it's happening. JWP is coming in.
Stick someone who can break the line and carry the ball next to him is a good signing. But if you're going to play Souček next to him, then give up all hope. I don't think. I think there's so much focus on the set pieces, and I think he's great at the set pieces. Obviously, I think he's also very good as a footballer, but we have to really not underestimate what he's capable of doing with that ball as a dead ball option, because we sometimes lack getting that ball over the first man, and that's so frustrating in football. You know that yourself. You watch it. Why are we not getting the ball past the first man? Anyone that can't beat the first man should be fine.
Yeah, but we've been struggling for corners and set pieces for a couple of years, mate, and being able to put that into the whip, that really adds value. And also, like when we had Payet as well, Sorry, 2 seconds, Stan. Sorry, no, it's fine. Having Paqueta, it was that every time he stepped up for a free kick, it was like a penalty, and that feeling genuinely should come back because he is at that level again.
Yeah, which is why if he brings that to the team, I've nothing against that, mate. If he brings that into the team, but you've got to put the right man next to him. You can't be going and playing him, in a free of Alvarez, him and Souček or Downs or someone that doesn't have the pace or the ability to break the line. That's the problem you've got with a player JWP's ilk. At the end of the day, he isn't gonna pick it up from deep and break through and then pick the passes. That's why it's actually really important that if Paqueta goes, you replace him with the right person. That's where we're at.
Yeah, no, I get that. Definitely get that. Antonio Brazil then interjected. Someone texted me yesterday and said he's on his way. Guaranteed he's on his way. I don't know who that's about there. Jonathan, have I missed something here? Leon, I've heard he's coming in as captain and we're going to go to a 3-4-3 and 3-5-2 this season. I think if Harry does come in, which we're expecting him to do, he does play better in a back three. Zuma, Agerd and Maguire in that back line. My concern, though, if I had to bring a concern into that, is where are we relying upon strength and depth? That's where we then have a problem, because if you are playing those three players week in and week out, typically in any West Ham, team, we're going to pick up an injury at some point, and typically with the players we're talking about. And if you bring Zuma into the occasion, then we don't have the strength and depth, because unfortunately Oggie's legs, I love Oggie, I think we all do, but his legs are definitely gone and nowhere near where they were last 2 years ago, or even 3 years ago. Thilo Kehrer, I think he's a great prospect. I think he's got a bright future. I think he plays better actually in a back three, probably on the right-hand side of a back three, but is he going to get a chance? Is his head going to get turned? All that sort of stuff. So we really need, Moyes set out years ago when we were linked to Tarkowski, for example, and his big statement was we need 4 strong centre-halves in this team. And if you really want that, I think it would be nice to know that was maybe one coming up through the ranks or whatever.
This is why, again, and I would honestly, if Man City are serious, I would be flirting the possibility of Palmer and Ward-Prowse coming to us. Because you're gonna guarantee a couple of very young prospects there that are they're Premier League capable, in my opinion. They've both kind of done the hard yards. Ward-Prowse in particular did last year at Burnley, was one of their standout players. I just think that would be a smart thing to do, because you fill in 2 voids and you've got more options. The biggest issue with our club, and it's always been the case under David Moyes, is he loves a small squad. But the problem you've got there is the minute you pick up 1 or 2 injuries or suspensions, you are on your arse. Yeah. And, as good as the Alvarez signing is, who plays defensive midfielder when he can't? That is the issue. Yeah. And you're going to have this, if you're playing 3 centre-backs and say Zuma goes down with an injury, which he is bound to, who fills in? These are the questions that need answering. And we're going to have this issue with left-back and wing, and there's still so much to do. There's still so much to do. Why we've left it this late is honestly
that's the thing. But then again, I spoke to Russ last night, and I feel like some of the big deals going through or potentially going to go through seem to be going quite late. Even the fact that Man City have waited this long to potentially look at bringing in Paqueta, like it's not really a Man City movement to be so late. Chelsea again doing a lot of business late on. Liverpool can't get much business over the line, but then who can we say who can talk? West Ham can't talk because it's taken us so bloody long to do business. But Jonathan was actually mentioning the fact that on TalkSport they were talking about Antonio. I mean, he doesn't look interested at all. So I think if we
see it as a big loss.
No, it's not. Like I thank him. Thank you for your service. But yeah, it's time to go. What I find interesting is if he doesn't go, if he doesn't leave, like before the Bournemouth game, what's going to be interesting is if he doesn't start, then I think that's a shoe-in to know that he is going to be going out the door.
It's going to be interesting to see who even starts against Bournemouth, to be fair.
Absolutely.
It's really, because if the Paqueta thing it really amps up, I don't think he'll play. So then who plays in midfield against Bournemouth? It's going to be crazy.
Yeah, no, 100%, mate, 100%. I'm just reading through some of the comments. Antonio's a legend, just a shame he's been a bit outspoken. We don't have a ball playing midfield, that's why JWP is coming in to get on the ball and knock it about. If Paqueta goes though, Leon, like we absolutely need someone else in to replace him. 100%. And I've already said to you the one player I would love to be able to do that. So that is Eberechi. But that's my opinion. There's no official link, but we would certainly have some money to be able to go and tempt anybody within reason to come to the club if they believed in what we were trying to achieve, and we'd have a little bit of the money there. What I like about this whole situation, though, the only one thing I can take as a positive is we're not. Well, it's not that I love it. We're just not breaking our transfer wage structure. Like we're not willing to do it. So we want Maguire. We listened to what Maguire was earning at Manchester United. We did not know how we're going to get this deal through, but they've managed to do something that means that he gets paid 100 grand a week. He might get a signing on fee, but it still means he gets 100 grand a week at West Ham.
I think something as well that the fan base as a whole needs to start considering is that they don't start contradicting themselves, because for the whole window, it's all like we should be concentrating on younger players with a high resale value, and so on and so on. And then we get to a point where we've got a player in the squad, we're about to sell him for potentially £30 million profit, and everyone's kicking off.
Yeah,
you've got to find a balancing act for yourself.
Although on that balancing act, I think if I said to you at the start of the transfer window, mate, and even to you, Dan, to anyone, we're going to lose Rice, Scamacca, and Paqueta, I don't think you would have believed me.
No, not in one window. If it had happened over the next 2 or 3 years, then I could have potentially seen that. You know, the Scamacca one, I'm going to be honest, was a big surprise to me. I really, really felt like it was just rumour mill. It was the Italians just trying to unsettle him, and then the fact that he's left is a big, big shock. It's left a massive hole as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, that's your kind of rumour roundup with myself. Myself and Dan. We just have to wait and see what's going to happen here. It's going to be interesting over, I was going to say the next day or two. It's probably going to be interesting over the next hour, depending on what actually happens in the club, to be honest. Join Holly. She'll be back with the Hammers headlines later on this evening. There'll probably be more stuff coming your way over due course. You'll probably be seeing a little bit more of Dan over the coming season as well. So thank you for joining us. If you're new around here, hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up. If you're interested in becoming a channel member, hit the join option as well. You get entered into a monthly draw to win some cool prizes. And the last prize that was drawn, I can't remember, was it Joan won it? She won a signed 22-23 season top signed by the Europa Conference League winning squad. So that's a decent, very decent prize to win. So yeah, make sure you go and check that out as well. Take it easy, everyone. And for myself and Dan, come on, you irons. If I can end the broadcast.